Hello, welcome to the fourth segment of Lecture 10. I want to talk here about the concept of privacy and why privacy might be important in ethics. Two types of privacy: physical privacy and informational privacy. Physical privacy is just the condition of being free from the intrusion of other people. And it's mostly protected by private property rights. You keep people out of your house, out of your apartment, off your lawn, whatever. It's being let alone is the standard condition here. More interesting is this notion of informational privacy. And this is the condition of being able to control access by others to information about yourself. Now, why is that important? There are lots of different threats to this sort of privacy, the nosiness and, of other people, of your neighbors, the collection of information on the internet. We know what all the various people who give us free things on the internet are also at the same time collecting information about us so that later on they can try to sell us something. We want to keep our financial records private. You don't want this creates a possibility of fraud. You don't want people to know your bank account numbers and your passwords and all of this sort of thing. Maybe you don't even want people to know how much money you have, which may be a sort of information that you want to keep to yourself. And certainly health records, especially in countries where insurance is something you have to bargain for with different companies. You want to keep as much information about yourself private as possible, away from other people who can maybe use it to influence you. So why is this informational privacy, why is this sort of privacy important? Well, it's possible that the freedom from the scrutiny of others is required for authentic decisions, that if you have to speak out loud all the time while you're making decisions, well, maybe that will interfere with yours. But that's going to be a little bit personality dependent. Some people like to talk through their decisions with others. Maybe not all others, but with some others, and other people like to do it by themselves. So it's again, it's an empirical matter here. This is an ethical consideration that rests on the empirical question of whether freedom from the scrutiny of others helps people to make more autonomous decisions. But various different ethical theories, many of them, but not all of them, imply that privacy is important. So let's think of privacy within our ethical pluralist framework and see what we can find. Here are some justifications for a right to informational privacy, that other people should not take your information from you. Well, we talked about this. But self-ownership implies that you own information about yourself, right? It's information that you've somehow generated. If you own yourself, you own information about yourself. This is, maybe if it's common knowledge, well, no, but information that you've developed or that you've kept to yourself seems to be part of your ownership of yourself. This is particularly true of commercially valuable information. You can have private property rights in commercially valuable information. Either you've created this information or discovered this information yourself, or you have bought it from other people. A really interesting justification for the right to informational privacy is that it allows you to control the intimacy of your relationships. With people with whom you want to be intimate, you reveal more of yourself. With people whom you want to keep at a distance, you keep more to yourself. And if there was no respect for private information about people's inner lives or whatever, then all relationships would somehow be the same. Everybody would know as much about you as your best friend does. And this would seem to make all relationships the same, and therefore basically undermine relationships. So this is a rather interesting thought, that control of intimacy requires control of information. When you're bargaining, information is somewhat is power. If it's asymmetric information, if somebody knows something you don't, then that's going to be unfair. It's going to result in bad decisions. They're going to be able to manipulate your decisions. Indirect utilitarianism suggests sometimes that people make the best welfare choices when free of scrutiny. But again, this is an empirical case. Is it the case that people make their best choices for themselves when they're free of scrutiny, or do they make them best choices in public? If they make best choices in public, then the utilitarian argument doesn't hold. There's also arguments against the right to informational power, the con here, against the right to informational privacy. One of these can come out of economic utilitarianism. Market efficiency requires full information, right? The full disclosure of the information about what's where you can buy something more cheaply, what's involved in what you're buying, in order to make these sort of choices. It assumes the efficient markets assume full information. When information is kept private, as in, for example, in cases of intellectual property, that leads to monopolies, and monopolies are result in imperfect competition, and they reduce market efficiency. They may be necessary for other reasons, but they're still market failures. Full disclosure of information in the stock market is the assumption against insider trading. On the one hand, insider trading may result in disclosure of information about companies coming to the market more quickly, as when people follow the buying and selling activity of the officers of corporations. So again, market efficiency may go against the notion of informational privacy. And the notion of informed preference consequentialism, which requires that you know everything there is to know, everything that you need to know to make the best decision. What is good for you is what you would want if you knew everything. Well, this suggests that that people should not keep information private. That will affect your well-being. And again, for example, in relationships, maybe you want full and frank disclosure of everything about another person in order to decide what you want to do. But on the other hand, that person is entitled to privacy. So there's a trade-off between the informational privacy and the requirement of full information. So here's again a summary of what I've just said. This feminist ethics point about the control of the intimacy of relationships requires control of information. It seems to be a very interesting one here. The will theory of rights requires perhaps informed consent requires freedom from scrutiny. Sometimes when people are making a decision, their family members are asked to leave so that they can't influence it, so that person can make the decision free from scrutiny. And the self-ownership right perhaps is a right to control intimate information. People may have private property rights in valuable commercial information that they want to keep secret, or their financial records. I mentioned this idea that information is power, so that in order to prevent asymmetric bargaining situations, you may have to have more disclosure of information. The economic utilitarianism perhaps can be looked at both ways. On the one hand, in favor of it, information is valuable commercial property. So this is a reason. Trade secrets, intellectual property, these are all things that people may want to keep private as sort of information. On the other hand, market efficiency does require full information. So there's a tension within economic utilitarianism about the private ownership of information, commercially valuable information, against the need for of market efficiency for full disclosure of all information. And of course, the informed preference viewpoint suggests that the best choices for people are those which are made in the possession of full information, and full information, of course, means that other people can't keep information private. So again, there's a tension here. Okay, last question. Which of the following is the best example of informational privacy? So pause the video for a second and I'll be back. Okay, informational privacy. Well, let's start at the bottom here. The customer buys the product because the salesperson did not tell her about the manufacturing defect. Well, the salesperson was probably not entitled to keep this information private. Possibly if there's a real caveat emptor condition going here, but in general, salespeople shouldn't sell things to people that are defective. The security guard physically prevents the employee from leaving the premises. Well, this is something about negative liberty rights. It's not what we were interested in. The firm builds its secure facility in the middle of its 1,000-acre park on the edge of town, trying to keep people out, trying to get physical privacy, right? This is the idea of building a facility in the middle of a 1,000-acre park with a big fence around it. So this is a privacy thing, but it's not about information. It's about physical privacy. And finally, the company creates an effective firewall around its digital information systems. You're probably sick of this little statement now, but it's finally the answer, right? Because the company is maintaining its informational privacy with by preventing other people from finding out what's inside their information systems. Okay, that was just a brief introduction to issues of privacy and some of the ethical reasoning that goes into judging whether privacy, informational privacy in particular, is important.